The Whiskey Rebellion was a significant event in early American history and was the first tax imposed on a domestic product in the U.S. Here's a detailed description of the rebellion, including the events leading up to it. After the American Revolution, the newly formed United States faced substantial debt from the war. To help pay off this debt and establish financial stability, Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton proposed a series of economic measures, including the federal assumption of state debts and the establishment of a national bank. One of his most controversial proposals was the excise tax on distilled spirits, known as the whiskey tax, enacted in 1791. It targeted distilled spirits, which were widely produced and consumed, particularly in the western frontier regions, such as western Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and the Carolinas. For many frontier farmers, whiskey was more than just a drink. It was a medium of exchange and an economic staple. These farmers often converted their surplus grain into whiskey, which was easier to transport and trade than raw grain. The tax was seen as an unfair burden on small producers, especially those in remote areas far from markets, who had less cash available to pay the tax. Resistance to the whiskey tax began almost immediately after its implementation. Western farmers viewed the tax as an unjust and discriminatory measure that favored larger, wealthier producers in the eastern states. Moreover, many saw it as a repeat of the British taxation policies they had just fought against during the Revolution. The tax was difficult to enforce in the frontier regions, where federal tax collectors were often met with hostility and violence. Some tax collectors were threatened, tarred and feathered, or driven out of town. In some cases, federal officials were prevented from carrying out their duties altogether. By 1794, resistance in western Pennsylvania had escalated into open defiance. A group of rebels attacked the home of John Neville, a wealthy landowner and federal tax collector, leading to a violent confrontation in which several people were killed. This incident, known as the Battle of Bower Hill, further inflamed tensions and led to widespread unrest in the region. The rebels, numbering in the thousands, organized into militias and began to openly challenge federal authority. They attacked federal officials, disrupted court proceedings, and threatened to secede from the Union if their demands were not met. President George Washington, recognizing the threat to the fledgling nation's stability, decided to take action. He saw the rebellion as a direct challenge to the authority of the federal government and a test of its ability to enforce its laws. After attempting to resolve the situation through negotiation, Washington issued a proclamation in August 1794, calling for the rebels to disperse and return to their homes. When the rebellion continued, Washington invoked the Militia Act of 1792, calling up a militia force of approximately 13,000 troops from several states. This force, led by Washington himself and General Henry Light Horse Harry Lee, marched into western Pennsylvania in October 1794. The overwhelming show of force by the federal government quickly ended the rebellion. The rebels, realizing they were vastly outnumbered, dispersed without significant resistance. A few leaders were arrested and tried for treason, but most were later pardoned by Washington. The Whiskey Rebellion was a pivotal moment in the early history of the U.S., and it demonstrated the federal government's willingness and ability to enforce its laws, even in the face of significant resistance. The tax was eventually repealed in 1802 during Thomas Jefferson's presidency, reflecting the ongoing debate over the role of government in American life. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe for more.